Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, have you ever been deceived or betrayed by the words or actions of someone close to you? These moments of disappointment, when the truth seems distorted, can be upsetting. However, in our daily lives, we encounter people who sometimes, in a subtle way, hide their true intention behind lying words or envious attitudes. These behaviors, although invisible to others, are destructive to our soul and our relationship with Allah. Envy, hasad, and lies, which deceive you, are dangerous traits that can pervert hearts and cause divisions within the community. Allah has warned us in the Quran not to give in to these bad emotions, because they are the source of many words. As Allah says in Surat Al-Hadid, "And do not let envy destroy your hearts." This shows the profound impact that envy can have on our spiritual being and our relationship with others. Lying, for its part, is one of the greatest sins in the eyes of Allah. The Prophet Muhammad said, "Lies lead to immorality, and immorality leads to fire." Thus, integrity and truth are essential values to uphold in our lives. It is crucial to know how to recognize these behaviors in others to protect ourselves and preserve our peace of mind. Before starting this video, I invite you to subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell to stay informed of our next publications on the Islamic faith. Thank you, and good video. In this video, we will explore together how to identify envy and lies, understand their consequences, and above all, how to protect ourselves from these trials while strengthening our faith in Allah. So stay with me till the end to find out. If you have any questions or comments along the way, feel free to leave them down below. I really appreciate your feedback. Let's go. Envy, or azad in Arabic, is a complex emotion that, according to Islam, can destroy the soul and wreak havoc on personal and community life. In the Quran, Allah warns us several times about the dangers of envy, including emphasizing that it is a cause of great destruction if left unchecked. Envy, in its essence, is a desire to see someone else lose what they have, whether material goods, qualities, or blessings. This emotion arises from inner instability, a lack of gratitude for the blessings of Allah, and an inability to rejoice in the good of others. In Islam, envy is therefore seen not only as a sin, but also as a poison for the soul. It not only ravages the individual affected by it, but it can also break down human relationships and interfere with our relationship with Allah. Allah says in the Quran, "And do not let envy destroy your hearts." Surat Al-Hadid 57-23. This verse makes it clear that envy is not just a bad thought or a passing reaction, but an emotion capable of destroying our peace of mind, our faith, and our actions. In Islamic history, we see prominent examples of the destructive effect of envy. One of the most tragic examples is that of Iblis, who was consumed by envy towards Adam. When Allah created Adam, He commanded all the angels to bow down to him. Iblis, believing himself superior, refused, envious of the honor granted to Adam. This jealousy towards Allah's creature led to his downfall, a vivid example of the fatal impact of envy. Another example in the Quran is the story of Prophet Yusuf's brothers, Joseph. They were jealous of him because of the special love their father Jacob had for him. Their desire pushed them to betray Yusuf, throwing him into a well to get rid of him. This story illustrates how envy coupled with ignorance can lead to cruel and irreparable acts. Envy, however, does not always manifest itself in obvious ways. It is often difficult to discern if a person is envious, but certain signs can help you recognize it. The words of the envious are often full of criticism, comparisons, and negative judgments. Sometimes he hides his resentment behind thin compliments, seeking to diminish the importance of what another person has. Another sign is a lack of support or sincere joy for the successes of others. The envious person feels a kind of inner discomfort when he sees someone succeeding or being favored by Allah. The actions of an envious person can also be subtle, malicious competitive gestures, attempts to discredit the other person, or words laced with sarcasm. Envy can even manifest itself as indifference, deliberately ignoring the blessings that Allah bestows on others, as if their success were a threat. These behaviors can infiltrate our social relationships and create divisions. Islam teaches us that envy, although human, must be fought with patience, sabr, gratitude, shukr, and a constant reminder of the blessings of Allah. Sincerely rejoicing in the blessings of others and focusing on personal blessings received from Allah allows us to purify our hearts of envy and cultivate inner peace. Envy, or hasad, is not just a passing negative feeling. It has deep and lasting consequences on the soul. When we allow envy to settle in the heart, it acts like a flame that gradually consumes inner tranquility and spiritual peace. This emotion, if not controlled, feeds negative thoughts, generates hostility and resentment towards those we perceive as having more than ourselves. Instead of focusing on his own blessings, the envious person focuses on what he does not have, thereby fueling an inner void of frustration and bitterness. This spiritual void can quickly erode a person's faith, as envy creates distance between them and Allah. It prevents one from seeing the blessings that Allah has bestowed and from giving sincere thanks for what one has. Like a poison that spreads throughout the being, envy can lead to feelings of anger and sadness, making the person unhappy with God's will. This lack of contentment, Rita, is contrary to the spirit of gratitude, shukr, that Islam teaches. The Quran warns against envy clearly and explicitly. In Surah An-Nisa 4.32, Allah says, "And do not envy one another." This verse is a call to not let envy corrupt our hearts and to cultivate peace and contentment within ourselves. In another verse, Allah reminds us that it is He alone who grants benefits to whomever He wishes, and that it is futile to desire what Allah has given to others. We have attributed some prophets more than others. Surat Al-Baqarah 2253. The Prophet Muhammad also warned of the dangers of envy in many hadiths. He said, "Envy eats good deeds as fire eats dry wood." This powerful metaphor emphasizes that envy not only harms the person who feels it, but also destroys their virtuous actions, good character, and relationships with others. The impact of envy is not limited to the individual. It also affects society as a whole. When envy is present in a community, it sows division and harms cooperation. It generates unnecessary rivalries, creates suspicion and conflict, and disrupts collective harmony. Instead of supporting each other, community members find themselves in an unhealthy competition, each seeking to outdo the other by often unfair means. This breakdown in fraternal bonds and solidarity is a major obstacle to the creation of a united and strong community. Islam, which teaches fraternity, compassion, and mutual aid, invites us to look beyond our personal desires to build healthy relationships based on love of good for others. It is crucial to understand that envy destroys more than just human relationships. It also erodes faith. A heart consumed by envy is a heart that fails to rejoice in the blessings of Allah, nor to recognize His infinite wisdom in the trials and successes of others. To avoid these spiritual dangers, it is essential to practice gratitude, focus on the positive, and purify our hearts through acts of worship, asking Allah to protect us from envy and its harmful consequences. Lying, or kitabeh, is a major transgression in Islam and is clearly denounced in the Quran and the Hadiths. This is not just a simple distortion of the truth, but a serious sin that disrupts the integrity of the soul and the relationship with Allah. Lying undermines trust, sincerity, and truthfulness, essential qualities in the Islamic faith. Allah warns us against this behavior in several verses. Do not follow what you do not know, for hearing, sight, and heart will be responsible. This means that the truth is a sacred responsibility, and that those who lie will be held accountable for their actions. The Prophet Muhammad explained that lying is a sign of moral weakness and corruption of the heart. In a hadith, he said, "The believer does not lie, he does not cheat." Sahih Muslim. This hadith emphasizes not only the prohibition of lying, but also the need for Muslims to preserve their moral integrity in all circumstances. Lying is a deviation from the right path and is one of the acts that alienate man from divine truth. In Islamic history, lying is illustrated through several significant events. One of the most significant is the story of the hypocrites, munafiqun, from the time of the Prophet, who claimed to be Muslims while harboring malicious intentions and lies towards the community. These hypocrites are often mentioned in the Quran, and Allah denounces them for their duplicity. For example, in Surat At-Tawbah 9.67, Allah says, "The hypocrites and the hypocrites are alike. They command evil and forbid good, and they have turned away their hearts." These lies not only destabilized the community, but also endangered the peace and unity of the emerging Muslim society. Another example is that of Shaitan, who is the master of lies. In his dialogue with Adam alayhi salam in paradise, he lies to him and makes him believe that he could achieve immortality by eating the forbidden fruit. This lie not only misled Adam, but it also caused the downfall of humanity in this world. This teaches us that lying is one of the means by which Shaitan seeks to lead humanity astray and sow discord. The signs of a person lying are often subtle but recognizable. The first indication of a lie is often the inconsistency between the individual's words and actions. For example, a person who lies might say one thing and act in a way that contradicts what they said. Frequent contradictions in his speeches may be clear signs of lies. Another sign is absenteeism from consistency. In the details she provides, a liar can often be confused when having to tell a story multiple times, adding or changing elements to conceal the truth. The manipulation of the truth is also a striking trait. Liars often distort facts to achieve a personal goal, manipulate the emotions of others, or avoid the consequences of their actions. Lying is not only an immoral act, but it also harms social trust and harmony between individuals. In a community where the truth is distorted, relationships become fragile and the stability of society is compromised. Muslims are therefore invited to practice the truth in all circumstances, because it is through the truth that faith, peace, and unity are strengthened. Lying is a spiritual poison that slowly erodes the integrity and purity of the soul. In Islam, lying is not only an act contrary to the truth, but a behavior that weakens faith and disconnects the individual from Allah. When a person lies, he moves away from the light of truth and divine guidance. Lying creates a spiritual distance that prevents the soul from receiving Allah's blessings, guiding it towards darkness and misguidedness. Lying, like any other transgression, alters the individual's relationship with their Creator by nourishing feelings of guilt and hypocrisy, which lead to a loss of inner tranquility. Thus, lying is a sin that weighs heavily on the soul and distances it from the paths of good. The Quran addresses the seriousness of lying in several verses, including this one. Lying is a grave sin before Allah. Surat Al-Baqarah 2:42. This verse reminds us not only that lying is a serious act, but that it undermines the very essence of faith. Lying, far from being a simple slight mistake, is a direct offense to the truth that Allah represents. In another verse, Allah says, "And do not follow what you do not know, for hearing and sight and heart will be responsible for it." Surat Al-Isra 10:7-36, emphasizing that lying distorts the perception of reality and makes the individual lose the ability to discern what is right. The Prophet Muhammad also warned of the spiritual dangers of lying. In a hadith, he said, "He who lies even in jest is a sinner." Sunan Abu Dawud. The Prophet also warned that in the day of judgment, liars will be among the most punished. Lying leads to corruption and corruption leads to hell. Sahih Muslim. Thus, lying is not just an act of temporary misguidance, but a road that can lead to eternal damnation if unrepentant. Lying in society has devastating effects. It corrupts the foundations of trust, which are essential to any human relationship. When lying becomes common, it destroys credibility and creates doubt in people's minds. Sincere relationships turn into a series of charades and distrust sets in. Communities become fragile because without trust, it is impossible to build strong bonds between individuals. Lying promotes hypocrisy, where actions do not match words, and authenticity is replaced by pretense. In a society where lies are widespread, individuals are constantly searching for the truth, but are caught in a whirlwind of confusion and doubt. This climate of distrust leads to a breakdown in sincere relationships, whether in families, friendships, or even professional relationships. Islam teaches that sincerity and honesty are the foundations of a harmonious society, and that lies destroy this harmony by sowing discord and misunderstanding. Thus, lying, beyond its individual dimension, has a profound impact on society as a whole. It weakens the bonds that unite the members of a community and disrupts social peace. Islam exhorts us to purify our words and deeds, to be truthful in all our interactions, for this is the path to success in this life and the hereafter. Recognizing envy and lying in others can be a delicate task, but essential to protecting yourself spiritually and emotionally. The subtle behaviors of an envious person often manifest themselves in hidden criticism, which, under the cover of innocuous comments, reveals a desire to devalue the achievements of others. An envious person may downplay the accomplishments of others, calling them opportunities or favorable circumstances, rather than seeing them as blessings or deserved efforts. She may also have difficulty celebrating the successes of others, preferring to ignore them or express displeasure. Another sign of envy is the refusal to share one's blessings with others. The envious prefers to keep what he has for himself and often seeks to restrict others for fear that they will receive similar blessings. Lying is more easily recognized, although it is sometimes subtle. A person who lies often has inconsistencies in their stories. She frequently changes her version of events, which can make her words unreliable and contradictory. Such a person will also tend to change their story depending on circumstances, which reflects emotional instability. Inconsistency between what she says and what she does is another telltale sign. For example, she may pretend to be a caring person while acting selfish or manipulative. This dissonance between words and actions is a powerful indicator that the truth is being manipulated or concealed. It is important to use spiritual discernment to detect destructive behaviors. This discernment is nourished by intuition, but also by faith and Islamic teachings. Islam teaches us to be vigilant and not to judge hastily, but to observe the telltale signs of a corrupt soul. The Quran and Hadith remind us to keep our hearts pure, not to succumb to grudges, and to remain cautious of those who seek to harm through their words and actions. When we develop an intimate relationship with Allah, we learn to spot the signs of envy and falsehood, not only in others but also in ourselves, in order to avoid them and stay on the path of truth and purity. Protecting yourself against envy and lies is essential to preserving your inner peace and your relationship with Allah. Islam offers several powerful spiritual measures to defend against both evils. Regular prayer is one of the most effective ways to strengthen our connection with Allah and protect ourselves from the influence of envy and lies. By performing our prayers with sincerity and devotion, we purify our hearts and drive away negative thoughts. Dhikr, the remembrance of Allah, is also crucial. Repeating the names of Allah and invocations for protection, such as A'udhu billahi minash shaitani ar-rajim, help us ward off bad influences and strengthen our faith. Dua invocation is another powerful means. Asking Allah to grant us wisdom, patience, and purity of heart is a way of attracting His protection against envy and lies. Besides spiritual practices, it is also important to cultivate core values such as honesty and humility. Honesty allows us to move away from the temptations of lying and to maintain a sincere relationship with others. In the Quran, Allah repeatedly reminds us of the importance of truth. By remaining humble, we avoid succumbing to envy, because humility teaches us to be grateful for what we have and not to desire what others have. Humility keeps us away from the sins of envy because it helps us understand that everything we have is a blessing from Allah and that we should not compare our blessings to those of others. The community also plays an essential role in this spiritual protection. It is important to cultivate relationships based on truth, kindness, and solidarity. The Prophet Muhammad emphasized the importance of mutual aid among believers, and it is essential that the Islamic community supports its members to protect them from harmful influences. This includes denouncing harmful behaviors, such as envy and lying, which can harm the harmony of society. A united community, founded on justice and truth, creates an environment where it becomes easier to protect ourselves from temptations and sins. So by staying close to each other, supporting each other, and raising our moral standards, we can create a society that is purer and more consistent with Islamic teachings. When faced with an envious person, it is essential to maintain a calm and thoughtful attitude. Envy can create tension and misunderstandings, but it is important not to respond with the same emotion. In these situations, it is best to remain emotionally distant and not engage in arguments. The Prophet Muhammad said, "He who possesses 3 qualities, his faith will be perfect: truthfulness in his words, loyalty in his promises, and patience in adversity." Patience in the face of envy is a way of protecting your heart and soul. It is also important not to display your blessings and successes ostentatiously, as this can arouse envy in others. By maintaining a modest attitude, we avoid feeding this emotion. Taking some distance and focusing on gratitude to Allah for His blessings helps us stay calm and preserve our inner peace. In the case of a person lying, it is crucial not to respond with lies or attacks, but to seek to preserve their integrity. If possible, confronting the person with respect and calm is a way to make them understand the importance of the truth. However, it is also wise to protect yourself by not immediately believing everything that is said and to take the time to consider the situation with discernment. Islam teaches that the truth is a sacred value and that lying corrupts the soul. When faced with lies, it is important to remember that only the truth can free us from bad influences. The Prophet said we must therefore remain firm in our principles, but treat others with gentleness and respect, even when they lie to us. In some situations, it may be better to walk away rather than get drawn into unnecessary conflict. Patience and wisdom are key qualities for dealing with envious or lying people. The Quran and Hadith encourage believers to respond to evil with gentleness and wisdom. As Allah says in the Quran, respond to evil with what is better. This does not mean tolerating evil, but rather seeking to maintain peace and avoid the escalation of conflict. When faced with an envious or lying person, it is essential to ask Allah to grant us the wisdom and patience to react in a fair and respectful manner. Reminding Allah that He is our guide and protector in these times helps us to stand firm in our beliefs and not give in to the temptation of anger or overreactivity. Self-examination muhasaba is an essential practice in the life of the believer. It's about taking a step back regularly to analyze your actions, thoughts, and intentions. The Prophet Muhammad taught us not to let our bad deeds go unnoticed, as this can lead to a hardening of the heart. As it says in the Quran, practicing self-examination helps us to be aware of our faults, such as envy or lying, and to correct them before they take root. Self-examination encourages us to ask Allah for forgiveness for our mistakes and to seek to purify our hearts from these evil influences. This allows us to constantly purify ourselves and be closer to our Creator. Cultivating positive thoughts and an attitude of gratitude is a powerful remedy for envy. Islam encourages one to rejoice in the well-being of others and never compare one's blessings with those of others. The Prophet said, by cultivating a pure heart, we can change our perception and transform our jealousy into a source of inspiration to improve ourselves. Instead of looking at what others have, we should focus on being grateful for what we have and striving to improve ourselves without unnecessary competition. Jealousy disappears when we learn to sincerely appreciate Allah's blessings and rejoice in the success of others. Invocations are another powerful way to protect against envy and lies. Islam teaches that the heart is the source of our actions, and therefore it is important to ask Allah to purify our heart. The Prophet taught us to say in our du'as, asking Allah to protect our hearts from bad thoughts and envy is a way to stay on the right path. We must also pray that Allah grants us sincerity, truth, and humility in our actions and words. Reciting invocations like which means, Lord, do not let our hearts deviate after you have guided us, helps us maintain our faith and protect us from temptations that can harm us. Protecting ourselves from envy and lies begins with purifying our hearts, controlling our thoughts, and invoking Allah to guide us towards sincerity and truth. In summary, envy and lying are destructive behaviors, not only for the person who practices them, but also for society as a whole. These negative traits corrupt the heart, destabilize relationships, and distance us from our Creator. Islam teaches us the importance of purifying our intentions, recognizing behaviors in ourselves and others, and taking steps to avoid them.